joining us for yet another conversation here. My name is Kevin Tocci, and my guest today, you recognize her. She is your state representative serving the 7th Plymouth District, which is Whitman, East Bridgewater, and Abington. And we're doing a little bit of a check-in, as folks may or may not know, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows, because we've all had to kind of endure something that is unprecedented, a pandemic, COVID-19, coronavirus. We got some interesting news this week, and I thought it'd be fantastic to have Alyson Sullivan join us. Representative, welcome back.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Starting the conversation off, how are you doing? How are you and your family holding up?
We're doing good. You know, it's a little bit of a struggle like everyone else, maintaining that social distancing, but also just needing to have that interaction. So I use FaceTime quite a bit between my mother and my sister on a daily basis. My grandfather, we try to have a conversation, you know, every now and then. It's just, I think it's difficult for the older generation and the younger generation, not realizing what's going on or how to handle it. But we're good. We're healthy and happy. So that's a good thing. My sister is due next month, having her third baby. So we're hoping that things kind of, you know, settle down and she can have a nice, healthy baby boy.
Oh boy, another niece or nephew to spoil.
Yeah, another nephew. So I do know it's a boy. So there'll be another nephew, and my niece, thank God there's not another girl coming, because she's just big personality in itself.
So we get the news, and you know, talking about little ones, we get the news this week. Governor Charlie Baker made the announcement, and a lot of people, I feel a lot of people knew the announcement was coming.
Right.
That for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year, it's not going to return to session. What are you hearing from folks in the district, and what are you hearing from your colleagues in regards to this announcement?
So I haven't had many conversations with my colleagues as far as the announcement as of yesterday, but I've had a number of conversations with parents, teachers, students. They're devastated. You know, I think we joke about no kid likes school, but they were really, truly hoping to go back to school. You look at the kids that are transitioning from a junior high school to a high school, or from a public school to a private school next year, or even from, you know, a preschool, kindergarten kind of setting to a first grade elementary school setting. So you're looking at all the changes, and these kids, I mean, they're devastated that they're not going to be able to say bye to their friends that they don't see next year because they're going to a different school, or even their teachers. You know, I have family members who are teachers, and they were so upset. They were really looking forward to going back to school, even though they knew that potentially this announcement was going to happen. And they understand that it was, you know, the right response to have, but it's devastating to them. They've spoken about how the last time they saw their kids, their students, they didn't say bye. You know, they didn't say like, okay, this is it. And to not have that finality of it, I think is leaving a little bit of a gaping hole for a lot of people. And then you look at our seniors, and my heart is breaking for all our seniors. We actually had Damari, who was a senior in this year at Whitman Hanson, who was an intern last summer, and we've been in close communications with her, and you know, she's devastated. She's worked so hard to get to where she is, and to walk across that stage, it's very important. And me being a high school graduate, college graduate, and law school graduate, it was very important for me to walk across that stage in that moment. So, you know, I've reached out to our superintendents and trying to figure out what the guidelines are going to be from the state as far as a postponement for graduation. And we are hopeful that it's not canceled, it's just delayed. And I think it's important for those seniors to have that, you know, kind of that last hurrah. I mean, they've been robbed so much already.
And if I could kind of follow up on, you actually touched upon it, because that was the next thing I was going to touch upon. So we look, you know, K through 12, but we're also forgetting higher education and the folks, you know, the students that went from high school and went into, I want to get a degree, and those who are going to probably get their bachelor's or are going to get their master's or the doctorate. That's something that's been kind of that's been shortened. It's been tainted because of this virus.
Right. our current, well, unfortunately not current intern, but he's a current intern, and that was cut short as well. But Jonathan, he's in Whitman, and he was supposed to be graduating this year from Stonehill, and I think it's something that he was very much, and his family was looking forward to, having that ability to watch their loved one cross that stage. You think of all the time and effort you put into a college degree, a master's degree, a doctorate degree, and not having that ability, or having a virtual graduation. It's not the same. And I know that I've actually had a conversation with one of my friends, and I don't know who it was that I was having the conversation with, but I was talking about how long it took me to graduate law school, in the sense that the ability to get there, in the 4 years of law school, but also the time before that, and what I overcame as an individual. And not, if I was supposed to graduate this year, I'd be devastated that I didn't have that ability to walk across the stage, and just the whole ceremony behind it. It's definitely a day to remember.
Any concern as to what kind of ramifications this could have in regards to the financials, whether it's for the school department or other school districts, not only in your district, but around the state?
Yeah, I mean, there's always that ongoing conversation around the funding, and the funding mechanism, and what it's going to look like after all this, especially because with the MCAS not happening, and just different things that are in place to get funding for each school system and school district. So that's definitely a concern. But thankfully, we're all actively trying to figure out ways to tackle that.
So we're talking about education being affected, a lot of things. Life in general has been affected, not to mention how a municipality, how a town runs, how government operates. If anything
Right.
from, I've had conversations with town clerks who say it's so different when it comes to doing business with someone's coming in to get a license, or somebody's coming in to get something notarized, or my God, you're somebody who is seeking another term in office.
Oh yeah.
You got to get signatures. You got to have those signatures certified. I'm pretty sure that you can attest to it. It has been vastly different than what you did 2 years ago.
Right. It was definitely different. Just like the town halls, the state house is closed to the public. So it's definitely that eerie feeling that we're not allowed, as a citizen of Abington, or resident of Abington, or resident of the Commonwealth, not to be able to go into these public buildings, right, that we typically would have access to. But the town clerks have been great. I was actually able to get all my signatures. I turned them into the state on Tuesday, so I'm actually officially on the ballot for this fall, which I'm excited about. But it definitely was different, just the mechanism of collecting the signatures, turning the signatures in, and then also getting them certified through the town halls in the state. It was definitely a challenge, but it's something that the guidelines have also changed, because the SJC came down with that order to cut the signatures in half and give an extension as well. So it's definitely a different type of election period this go around.
What are you hearing in regards to town meetings? Have you heard discussions as to how community is going to deal with town meetings? Because you're somebody, as an elected official, have found yourself at different town meetings as there's conversations about local aid. That's everybody's favorite word. What am I getting for Chapter 90 money to be able to do certain projects around the community? What am I getting for Chapter 70 monies when it comes to funding our education and our upcoming budget?
Well, our House budget is something that's supposed to be actively going into debate next week, and that might be changing because of the situations at hand, right? We're not able to go all in the same room and have these active discussions like we typically would. I know for town meeting, I've had multiple conversations with selectmen across the district in regards to the town meeting and what that's going to look like, and some of the suggestions, and that's an active conversation going on. I don't think they've come up with, as far as I know, last time I spoke to them, there was no set mechanism as to what they're going to do, but there's an active conversation around whether or not the town just has a very small town meeting, in the sense of getting the budget out that needs to get out, that can get out based on last year's finances, but then also having the outside sections type of debate out later on when it is able to have an active town meeting where people can come together at a safe, you know, distance with each other.
It's definitely going to be something that will be watched. Knowing that every community is different when it comes to having a quorum.
Mhm.
How do you tackle that? How do it'll be interesting to see what ends up being decided. Um, and then I've even heard conversations about maybe the state steps in and we talk 1/12 budgets for the
Right.
foreseeable future,
Yep.
depending, because I think the biggest fear is seeing a resurgence of coronavirus and it
Right.
coming back even stronger.
Right. Well, the state has done that in the past for a number of reasons. So I don't see that being an issue in the sense of the state getting involved and pushing the budget out. But I think because of the coronavirus, that is something that we're going to see. I don't foresee a budget coming. Um, at least the House budget. I know there's an active conversation around what that's going to look like next week, and still it's unknown to us what exactly that's going to look like. So it will be interesting to see when we're going to get a budget out. I think it's necessary that we do get something out, but then also revenues are going to change because of the coronavirus. So it's very a fluid situation.
I think it's worth noting. I've heard a couple of sheriffs who oversee jails,
Hmm.
Norfolk County, Plymouth County, and a push. I believe that there was a ruling in regards to letting nonviolent criminals out of jail because of coronavirus. Knowing your background, and knowing that there could be somebody who has a history of violence, um, being let back out free. I mean,
Right.
what's your thoughts on hearing about the possibility that prisoners are going to be let free?
So, I definitely have a different viewpoint on that. I have a personal perspective on that, being a survivor of domestic violence. I think my take on all of it is a little different than some. I do believe that we should be protecting all individuals, right? With the coronavirus and the spread and trying to minimize that spread. And I think we did a great job as far as our jail systems go. No contact visits, extra phone calls, free phone calls, so that we're still giving inmates the ability to communicate with their families outside of the jail. However, I don't agree that we should be just letting individuals out just because of this virus. I think we can have the ability to contain it and scan the different workers that are coming in and out of the jail, because there's very minimal interactions with the inmates, and typically it's just the officers themselves and not family members at this time. I was devastated when I heard of cases where perpetrators of domestic violence and sexual assault were released based on this COVID-19 pandemic and on a ankle bracelet monitor. We've seen firsthand in the criminal justice system that there's failures among the GPS system, and then with the police activities that have been minimized because of the COVID-19, we're just sending that wrong message to the criminals across the Commonwealth that a pandemic is going to stop justice and law and order, and we shouldn't be doing that.
I think the thing that's interesting is that if you listen to the daily news, it's you don't hear much world news.
Right.
It's almost as though we have kind of a mini world peace at the moment. I can't
Hmm.
remember the last time I heard a skirmish over in Syria or in the Middle East
Right.
or between a couple of countries. But this is having a global effect. I mean, what's your thoughts as someone, as a local leader, seeing it happen on such a grander scale and experiencing it locally?
I think on a global scale, things have settled down a little bit as far as those, big stories. But on a local scale, you look at the little girl that was hit in Boston by a stray bullet, or the other one that was killed. I mean, you hear about shootings just in the city next door, right in Brockton. I mean, crime hasn't just stopped because of this pandemic. And, it's scary to think that our jails and our court system is allowing criminals to be released because of this COVID-19, because they may say they have asthma and they're at a higher risk of catching it. It's just a very scary, slippery slope that I don't think we should be going down.
Anything we haven't touched upon during our conversation here? And again, I appreciate you. We're doing these a little bit more frequently as information comes forth. Anything that we haven't mentioned during this segment, but you want to make sure we touch upon before we say goodbye to the folks for this this portion?
Yeah, no, I just, I just want to let everyone know that our Facebook, social media is very active on keeping the constituents very updated on different situations and the numbers and the different updates that we get daily. We are sharing them on Facebook. We're also taking emails for anyone who is, unemployed or finding themselves with issues with unemployment. We're very active in that as well. And I just want to, I say it every time, but I just want to thank my legislative aide, Curtis, who has been doing such a tremendous job. And he doesn't, he never asks for any type of praise, but he definitely deserves it. He's taken this new role in the sense of the way a legislative aide looks today. It's different for him, but he's mastered it. And I appreciate having that because, with him, we have such a strong workforce. Yeah.
Representative, thank you for your time. We look forward for more updates as they become available, and maybe even seeing you without me. Maybe to get you to do your own program shortly, just to kind of keep folks more up to speed as to what's going on.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you very much for tuning in to this segment featuring State Representative Alyson Sullivan. Stay tuned for more as conversations become available.